Good morning. I am Sharifah Hardie, and thank you for joining me for another incredible show. I am here with the one, the only, with my mom. Good morning, Mom. How are you?
I am wonderful. How about you?
I am wonderful, and I am so excited. I'm excited not only at what I'm doing, but I'm excited to have you here today. One of the things that I tell people, and I got to get the accuracy of this story to make sure that I'm on point, but I say I'm a third generation reader, and my mom taught me how to read. So is that accurate?
That's accurate in some ways. I think that a lot of the ability was already there, and I think we just nurture it. I think we all have the capacity to do so. But a lot of times we are not surrounded with people who either recognize that or lean into that, believe in that. So, because there's a lot of fear around those kind of things. We've heard so many negative things like voodoo and other things, spells on people and all that. It can be a area where people are not comfortable, basically. So as far as third generation, I'd say yes, and I'd say no because I think it goes even further back than that. I think that we just, because of us being African Americans in particular, we really don't know the full extent of our history. So we can only go back so far. So I'll leave it there.
Okay, that's a beautiful answer. Because that's one of the things I always say, even when I say I'm a third generation reader, I always say that that's at least as far back as I know, because I know my grandmother. I don't know if my great grandmother, how it really goes in the family line, but I know that I remember doing readings with you. I remember going to get readings with you. And one of the things that stands out to me on this journey is that I remember us going and seeing all these psychics and seeing mediums and channels and readers and people doing the cards. And this was years ago. And you said, you can do that. Sharifah, you can do that. You can do that. And in my head, I'm like, okay, what they're doing is special. Like, I don't know how they got the information. I could never go and do that, especially as a business. At that time, I felt like all it was with the cards was simply just turning over a card, which to me meant anybody can do that. Again, back to what you were saying, is not to say that we don't all have our own abilities, but it's like if it's a card, anybody can flip the card, anybody can turn over the card. So now, fast forward to where I am, I see and I know that it's a lot more than just flipping over a card and telling somebody a message. Would you would you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree. To me, I always liken it as to any other talent, any other gift, like playing a piano or playing a violin or drawing a picture or anything. We all have the capacity to do it. I can draw a picture, but is my picture going to be as good as yours if you have a natural ability for it? Or I can play the piano. I can certainly make some sounds and plunk some, a few chords and stuff. But if I have a natural innate ability to do that thing, I'm obviously going to do it even better because the muse is coming through me to be able to do that. In fact, I saw something on the news last night which kind of speaks to that. They were highlighting a young girl, and she was probably about 10 years old, but she could play chess like, the masters. In fact, she was beating people who had won championships, adults and whatnot. And when they were asking her family and her father and whatnot, how did she get to be such a champ? How she get to be such a whiz playing chess? Her father said, well, she was attracted to the chess game. And so I bought it and I taught her how to play the basics. And from there, she just took off. So she had already an innate ability, that called to her soul to be able to do that thing. And who would have thought that a 10-year-old would end up, winning all these championships and, beating, people who had been playing chess all these years. So there again, like I said, we can all do it, but how well can we do it is based on the individual personal ability.
Okay. So with that said, something when we take a look at tarot or card reading, right? Is there an innate ability to be able to read the cards?
Well, absolutely. I think that, when I started out reading the cards, I started out just because I understand that the cards are just a tool. They're
Mhm.
just a tool. They're just a mechanism for spirit to come through you. So, I started out taking a tarot class and reading class just to learn the cards so I could learn what the cards meant. Now, that's just the basic information. Then I took other ones as well because, different teachers have different meanings and different understandings and all that. So I wanted to enhance what I know. But the reality is, once you get the basics of what that card is about, then it's the interpretation of that card is what comes to you from spirits, comes through your soul, comes through you, through your intuition. So I don't think that it's like, you can just look at a card and say, oh, this is, the lover's card, and therefore you're gonna find a lover, or whatever love is coming. What the spirit wants you to know about that card. That's where we go with that. And just before we proceed any further, I'd just like to bless this time together, knowing that as we move forward, the Spirit is guiding, leading, and showing us the way, and revealing information that we need to know and that others need to know as this chat, this conversation unfolds. And so it is.
And
Amen.
so it is, and so we allow it to be. That was so beautiful. That was so beautiful. I want to say welcome to Salim from League TV. And it was so interesting that Salim popped up, right? Because I have to share this story. Good morning. He and I see, Mom, I'm about to be 50. I got to put on my glasses to even see what Salim said. So Salim said, Salam, salam. And I don't know. And I think that's one of the things that's so interesting to me about readings and this whole arena is because certain things happen and you go, I don't know if it's because of this, or I don't know if it's because of that. And it's just so interesting to me that you chose in your example the lover's card, because with Salim, who was my very first guest on the very first show, the very first person who allowed me to do a reading, the lover's card appeared about, it's something about Salim, because I went all the way to Seattle just to meet Salim. But I was showing Salim that, just like I should do on most shows, is the deck that I read from, which is the Arcanum Tarot deck. And I selected it. It called to me because it's so beautiful. It has the lady and the man, the lover's card on it. And just like my friend here in Santa Ana says, one day I told her, I said, I'm a hopeless romantic. And she said, no, Sharifah, you're a hopeful romantic. Like, you have to be hopeful. And so I'm doing Salim's reading and I'm shuffling the cards and the lover's card pops out. Then I am shuffling some more and I look down at the bottom of the deck and I see the lover's card. And then I do the reading and then the lover's card comes out. So it was something about the lover's card and something about Salim. That's what I'm starting to see. There's some connection where we're going to move forward together in some kind of way. But I was at the gym yesterday and I'm talking on the phone to Salim, and he calls me to give me feedback and talks about telling me some of the experiences he had since we did the reading. And I'm listening to him, and all of a sudden the song on the radio at the gym is Heaven is a Place on Earth. And it's a love song about heaven being a place on earth. And I thought it was so beautiful. And that song was in my head all day. Then I did the show with DM Needham, which was incredible yesterday. And I shared with her this experience of the lovers. And then you're talking and you're giving this example of the lover's card. So what does the lover's card mean to you? What if you, and what would it, DM Needham said, again, it depends on the context and the surrounding cards. But what would that mean to you?
Oh, well, that's certainly, I would agree with that. It depends, and as I would say the same thing, it depends on where it appears in the reading as well as the context, as well as where that individual is in their particular life, because it could be speaking on different layers of love, like love thyself, love and accept who you are, could be a love of, what you're doing in your life. So it just has to really be in the context of the reading and also what's being experiencing in life right now. Love for your family. It could be love for the world. It could be calling you to be more of an instrument to be love, wherever and in whatever way that calls you.
You go, mama. I have to tell you, my mama be on point. She know. That's why this is so beautiful, just to be able to sit with you. And what you said, even though, see, I think one of the things, I love where I am right now in my life, because as a little girl, I couldn't really take the bluntness of it's like, I don't believe you mean it this way, but the energy that I felt was, it's obvious. Like everybody knows, isn't it obvious? Right. And now it's like, okay, that's just the honesty. That's just the bluntness speaking of responding and giving the information. So I think it's a beautiful thing of how far we've come. But it's also interesting, again, back to Salim, not to make this the Salim show, but to confirm what you said, because you said that he could be called to be more, give more love to the world, right? Yeah. And so I did the show yesterday with DM Needham, and I did the reading for her, and based on what I felt and the message that I felt she was meant to hear and meant to receive, it said, dream work makes the teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Ask for help. You are not alone. And then after I finished the reading, she said to me, she said, Sharifah, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I have no team. I have no help. And I told her, I said, first of all, this is not about me being right or wrong at all, because it's not, I don't have an ego. This is not about me. This is about the message that I believe and I feel that you are meant to receive. So maybe that message is telling you that you need help. You need a team. And she's going through chemotherapy. So you need to ask for help, and that there is help around for you. And Salim is watching a show, and he's like, I'll help you. So he was giving his love and his assistance and being loving to the world, not just in a romantic way.
Right. And I think that's what a lot of people tend to lean towards when they look at that card, like it's a romantic partnership. And then it can be, it could be somebody coming for you, coming into your life. Could be talking about your current relationship, could talk about, a past relationship and your aspects of love in terms of that. But, I also think that we have to take it out of the context of that sometimes, because in this society, when we say love, you automatically almost go straight to Valentine's Day and, candy boxes and flowers and all that. But the love is bigger than that. We have to tap into the love that is God, that is our natural being, our, who we are. So that love is, not just in a romantic aspect, but the agape love, love for all unconditionally.
I think that is so, so beautiful. And I'm really enjoying doing these shows. I'm enjoying the messages and the synchronicities that come through. And so I definitely just want to point this out, because I thought when I saw it was so adorable that we were in sync, and we both have on our pink shirts. Somehow, some way we were connected, because we're all one, and we're all like, okay, well, what do you wear? Right. And when I chose it, I was like, oh, I feel like wearing this pink shirt. So somewhere when you got dressed, you were like, oh, let me wear this pink shirt.
Yes. And, when we laughed when we first came on about that, because again, it goes back to the intuitive knowing, and alignment that we are one, we're all one. And I have to speak to what you said earlier about my bluntness and the way I communicate and whatnot a lot of times. And I look at that in terms of my numerology, and my birth number is 4. 4 is about the foundation. It's about realistic. It's about, no fluff. It's like getting down to business. It's like, really coming with the communication skills of, this is it, this is how it is. And, and not a lot of, drama or, fluff or anything, we just going to kind of tell it like it is. So, and I have to say, I know a lot of times I may come off like that, but, it's like that's one of my growing edges, to be able to, understand, that people don't always receive things the same way you may have, attempted to convey it. Mm-hmm.
But I agree with that. But I also think and believe that, especially in this society, because we answer a question directly. And when I say we, I'll be clear, I'm referring to Black women. You've asked me a question, I've answered your question, but because I just said it honestly and directly, it has to have some type of aggression behind it, or it has to have people perceive it as some type
Right.
of negativity, because I've
Mhm.
answered your question in a short, blunt way. And I think
Right.
for me, a lot of that just comes with maturity of saying, okay, was there, because I've had experiences where, and one that really profoundly stands out to me is I was standing in an elevator, and a gentleman walks into the elevator, and he sees me, and he was like, why do you look so mad? And I'm like, okay, first of all, we haven't had a conversation, we've never had an interaction, I didn't even open my mouth, but the conclusion, because you saw me standing in the elevator, was that I was mad. So a lot of it is just how I believe, are perceived in the world, and how we're perceived in the media. So when we don't sugarcoat things, and we're more direct, people can receive it in a certain way that has absolutely nothing to do with our intention, has absolutely really nothing to do with us.
Right. That's true. That's very true. That's absolutely the truth.
I love it. I love it. So again, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy reading. I was so nervous because I'm like, okay, when I do my reading, my mom was gonna tell me, she gonna help me. She gonna be like, this is what you're doing. So what I've been doing is, because one of the reasons I wanted to do the readings live is because I wanted to a certain extent, demystify certain aspects and kind of lift this veil of secrecy, because I believe, especially in this industry, especially based on marketing, there has been this whole push to make people feel like, oh, I'm the only one who has the answers, I'm the only one who has the information, as opposed to putting out the message that we all have these abilities, we all can do these things, some better than others, some naturally, some have trained, but there hasn't been a push to really show what a reading is. So I told everybody, I'm going to do live readings. And and people have told me, they said, well, just go to YouTube. You can do one of those faceless readings where you just show your hands and just show the cards. Or you can do general readings, because shout out to Butch Tarot, is one of my favorite YouTube readers. But they all say the same thing. This is a general reading, right? It may not resonate with you. Take what you like, leave the rest, which is wonderful. There's no judgment about that and how someone chose to do it. But if I take my time, my energy to be of service, I personally want to do a specific reading. I want to tune in to that person's energy. And then the general aspect of it for me is to allow other people to watch, because maybe they may learn something or learn a different interpretation, or maybe there's something that is said during the course of the reading that someone else needed to hear as well. But that's why, one of the things why I really love Butch Tarot is because he does his cards, he turns them over, and then he talks for 15 minutes. And then 15 minutes later, he goes, I was rambling. And I'm like, yes, you were, but you said exactly what I needed to hear. But he didn't focus on the card said this or the cards meant that. It was this story, because he takes you around the mulberry bush, but it was the exact story that you need to hear. And it was something that you can resonate within your life. So when I decided to do this, one of the things that I'm doing is I don't start the show and then 2 seconds later we're into what the cards say. No, what I've been doing basically, which I haven't done today, and I told myself one way or another, I'm going to just simply allow this show, this read me live, to be whatever it winds up. And I know that the 100th episode is not going to be like the first one or two or even the first 8. It's going to evolve over time. So what I've been doing for the show is starting with conversation, talking, seeing where the conversation goes, because that's what happened on all the other shows. I had no idea where we were going to go, what we were going to talk about, but then eventually we'll get to the reading, because then we'll get to the cards. But this whole show, this whole conversation is allowing, like you said, spirit to just show up, and as my mama would say, show out.
That's right, for sure. I mean, and then we just have to also recognize that, We're never alone. And what if you're here and you're hearing this and you're present in this particular show, then you were meant to be here. There's something for you here, and that's why your soul has called you to be in this space. And also, we also have to recognize that, it's not about us. It's not about us. It's not about, an ego thing. It's about being open, being a channel, being of service, so the spirit can speak through us. And the instrument is the cards. That's the tool,
I'm just trying to read without my glasses. I think it says Michael. Good morning, Michael. Thank you for joining us on this show. I definitely appreciate your kind words and I appreciate your support. Definitely is a thought process. But I want to go back to something that you said, dear mother, called, right? I say this actually in the description of the show. I write out because a lot of people want to know what is this reading, because they're like, first of all, Sharifah, you are all over the place. One day you doing this, the next day you doing that. What are you doing, right? And I lose people all the time because I'm like, my theme song is like shift, okay, and shift and move. That's the Aries. That's the Aries fire.
That's the Aries. And I can attest as being, the one with you from day one that has been your nature,
Well, thank you for that testimony. Right? And I'll say this, so I'll give you this testimony, because as I got older, especially when I was doing my podcast, and I said, I always wanted to be one of those people who knew from a young age that they know that this is what they wanted to do. You have people who the day they come out, they're going to be a doctor because all they talk about is medicine. That they're going to be whatever it is. And I always talk about cousin Carrie. I remember when Carrie was 9 years old, he would walk around the house with a spoon and interview people. And now what does he do? Right. So
and it's funny you should bring Carrie's name up because today is his birthday. So
happy birthday, cousin Carrie. Yes. But now he's a news reporter. I don't know what's Carrie up to? What channel is he on now? So people can tune in.
NBC4 in Columbus.
NBC. I don't know if people heard of a company called NBC. This is a little kid who walked around the house interviewing people and talking to people, and he wanted to report the news. He wanted to tell people the goings on, right? And I always felt that I wanted that. I wanted that energy of someone who from the day they was born knew what they were supposed to do. Because again, with all the shifts, I felt like I had no idea what, who I was and what I was meant to do. And then over time, I began to realize, especially with my podcast and my talking, I was like, I must have drove my mom crazy because I was always talking. And I was always
a talker,
asking questions. And I can remember now. I was like, oh, I get it now, because my mom probably was like, if you do not be quiet, because I'd be like, Mom, why she doing that? Why she doing that? Why she got that dress on? Why her hair look like that? And it was just me, back then doing the same thing that I'm doing now.
Well, I just want to speak to a little bit about you talking about people who are, know from an early age that something direction that they want to go in. And I just kind of investigate that at times and ponder on that because, I believe in life coming through from the other side. So that we are endless souls. We're infinite. So after this life, we transition, we go out of this life. I believe that we come back to learn another lesson in another life. And so sometimes I think that may be the case with some of those people who come through, and they are just focused. They know where they're going, they know what they're doing, and that's, the path that they follow. They may have brought that through from a previous life, So that's just my own theory. And as I, looked at that, but, one particular documentary that comes to mind when I think about that is on Netflix, and it's called Surviving Death. If you haven't seen it, I would suggest that you go take a look at it. And that's kind of what it talks about how our soul continues to evolve and grow, and we go through these near-death experiences, or either even death, and then come back. Because I won't talk about this whole thing and take it from your focus, but they had a child on there that he came through. He was a young boy. He knew so much information about certain things, and his family was like, "What? We never took him, to anywhere to learn about this." Or he knew, all about Army planes and all kind of stuff. And they began. He said, "Oh no, because I was so and so in another life." And they're like, "Yeah, right," But then eventually his father began to believe because he kept on talking about all the stuff he knew. And he actually was able to go back and find this man that he said that his son said he was, and the man actually lived. So he had brought things through, So that's why I sometimes think people who already know is because they've done that in a previous life. Bottom line.
No, I love it. That's why we're here to share this information. If everyone didn't grow up with a mother like you, because sometimes when I say certain things and they question me, I'm like, "You didn't know that? Your mama didn't teach you that?" Like everybody knows that. So I watch it and I'm humble, but that's kind of what I think. And then I begin to understand, obviously, a lot of things are nature versus nurture, like the environment that you're in, the people who tell you to move to watch movies like this. But I want to go back to something that you said about people who are tuning in to this show, people who are watching it in the archives, that they were called, their spirit called them to watch it. And I always see people on YouTube, I see people on Instagram, and they'll say, if you're watching this message, you were meant to hear it. And, if you're watching this video, you were meant to hear it, and you were meant to receive this message right now. And I always go, are you just saying that? I think you're just saying that. But then it goes back to the belief, do you believe that? Don't you believe that? And this is the conversation that I'm having with myself. So I want to just go a little bit deeper into what you said about people who are tuning in, who were called to watch this video.
Okay. Well, I just believe that everything happens for a reason. Now, some might say that's such a trite expression. Everything happens for a reason. We hear that all the time. But I also know that nothing happens by mistake. There are no mistakes, no mistakes, no coincidences. They're coincidences. In other words, we are called to be at certain places at a certain time. Sometimes you might go somewhere and all of a sudden you run into somebody you've been thinking about for a long time. I know we've all had these experiences, where we, show up somewhere and somebody you've been wanting to get in touch with is there, or we've been looking for something and then all of a sudden, you go somewhere and there that exact thing is. So I just don't think that there are coincidences in the universe. I think that we are called to be in certain places, certain spaces, to meet certain people, to hear certain things. Now, some of y'all might, not understand that I'm not considered as they would say previous, they used to say woo-woo person. I'm, a corporate person. I've worked in, traditional organizations, but I've always had a curious spirit about what is beyond this life and why we are here, and what abilities and how are we to operate in the space of earth. Why were we incarnated? Who is the source behind this? And I know that, some of us say Allah, some of us say God, some of us say spirit, creator, whatever name you might want to give, the Most High, because he's called by many names, but it's still only come back to one. And that energy, that vibration, is who we are. So we are called to be able to move forward in this space, in this our incarnation, to begin to learn about who we are as an expression of God. And to do that, we are called into different arenas, different spaces, different people, and like this, to be able to learn, to be able to grow, to be able to expand our soul and whatnot. So there are no coincidences. You're here because you're divinely guided to be here.
I think that's the best definition ever. Exactly what I said in the description, that even my readers is part of it. One of the reasons I list all of them in the description is my belief that there are no coincidences. right? So the message that the person receives is the exact message that that person needed to hear at that moment in time. Also, which was interesting that you pointed out, I met a lady some years ago, and I don't even know what it's called. So maybe mom knows the answer to that. But she, based on the numbers, like she did some type of calculations in her system, and we were remote, we weren't in person. So I couldn't look at the computer and see what she was doing. But based on my birth chart, my birthday, she was able to tell me, at least according to her belief, who I was in a past life. And she did the math and she said, you were Agatha Christie. I was like, Agatha Christie? She was like, yeah. And then I researched it. And based on my research at that time, there were certain things that add up. But when I think about my life right now, I do know that the easiest manner of expression for me for anything is the written word. So I just find these things so interesting and intriguing to me. Have you ever done anything like that?
Absolutely. You know, when I started out exploring as a young woman, I started out, doing numerology, learning about numerology. I was very interested in that. And I was living in New York and I had a lot of free time to myself. And so I was exploring all different kinds of things, palm reading, life after death, all kind of stuff. And so, of course, I believe in numerology. I believe that we don't come through haphazardly. I don't think that we are born haphazardly on a day or a certain hour or anything. For instance, like I said, I'm a 10-10. I'm 10th month, 10th day. And so one of the Psalms from the Bible that comes to me is, 4 and 6 is Psalms 4, 6, verse 10. And so that's a 10-10. And that's be still and know that I am God. So that is the message for me in this life, to be still, know that God is ever present in our be still.
It's
So
backwards, but be still and know that I am
God. So that's Psalms 46, verse 10. And so I'm a 10-10. So that is the psalm that has spoke to me all my life. Be still, know that God. In other words, you don't have to do the work. You don't have to do the effort and everything. Just get still and listen. Go within and listen. So yeah, I've experienced different things in my growth and my evolution and whatnot. So yeah.
Okay. Do you know what it's called when someone does the numbers to figure out who you were in the past life?
No, I don't. But like I said, I'm sure that it has to do with numerology, and also she probably came through and let her know, that that's who you were in the past life. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is good as well. So one of the things that I did, like I told you before offline, is that this is what I feel I'm being called and what I'm led to do. And one of the things that I was led to do was to take John Edwards' course on developing your psychic abilities. And it's on Hay House. It's a 4.5-hour course. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's wonderful. But one of the things that he talks about is numerology. And he taught people how to do the numerology of your name. So I did the numerology for Sharifah, and it comes out to a number 7. And then I kept seeing number 7 as far as people doing videos on psychic videos on the energy of a 7 just started popping up. So then I did the interview or the show with Andrea Wayland, who has an incredible story. If you're just tuning in and you didn't watch Andrea's story, she has a yoga studio, Ganga Moon Yoga, and she shares her story. And this is why, I allow people to speak for themselves. I don't tell people what I heard or what somebody told me. I share where people can watch the shows and go back. And she talks about how a lot of her abilities and even her yoga path began when she was in college and somebody slipped a roofie into her drink, took her back to a frat house and had their way with her, and then dumped her on the side of the road. And she continued to pass out. She woke up and she saw a Catholic church. She would crawl to the church, pass out, go out, wake up, crawl some more, pass out, and repeat this until she got to the Catholic Church. But it was this experience that she equates or says led her to this spiritual path. She's a Reiki master, yoga master. She does a lot of different things. But we were talking about numerology. We did the numerology of her name, and she was a 7, like myself. And then she's born July 7th.
Wow. So she got the double 7s there.
Yes.
And then too, you always have to recognize that that's just one of the ways that spirit lets us. It's like breadcrumbs. The story of Hansel and Gretel, where they put the breadcrumbs down, so they could find their way back. Well, I always think of that in terms of the things in our life that God gives us when we come on the planet, so we can find our way back to Him and to who we really are. So that's like one of the things is when we look at our numbers for our name and for our birth and whatnot, that is a breadcrumb for you to work on while you're in this life, and to find your way back to who you truly are as an aspect of Him. So.
Well, let me find my way back, because I think I done found my way back to the cards. Even though I've been doing the readings, I've just moved forward. Now I'm doing 4 or 5 readings a day. So it's like, yes, I'm doing exactly what I want to do, where I want to be. So since this is a live tarot card reading, I'm going to begin the tarot card reading. And then this is how I grew up, okay, with Mom giving me her feedback, because I know she's going to be like, Sharifah, you got that. But let's also think about this. Let's talk about this, because I also see this. And, certain times you're like, okay, well, I just wanted to see that. I didn't, but what you learn, like we talked about on yesterday's show with DM Needham, is that we are better together. We learn together, and teamwork definitely makes the dream work. So somehow I feel that this is going to be a team reading and not just a Sharifah reading. But
no, I don't let this be a Sharifah reading. I'll give you the reins, and I will pipe in as I feel called.
Absolutely. But I know you're going to feel called is what I'm trying to say. I know you. You know what I mean? By now I know you. You're going to, I'm open, because I want all the feedback, all the help, because I want to be able to give the people the clearest message that I can, and give them the highest frequency in the best way possible. And that's why what I do is, while I'm talking, I've been shuffling the cards and tapping into your energy. So even though, other people are watching, this reading is specific to you for whatever message that you need, that spirit might want to give you, because I'm watching my words, and power, life, and the power of life and death is in the tongue, right? So that's what I'm focused on. And let's see. So the first, I love that. The first card that I have for you is the 10 of Cups. So for me, that's your main issue, right? So everything that's going on in your life right now, the 10 of Cups for me is my sign and my symbol. And when I do the readings based on my studying and based on my spirit, I have a symbol for each card. And so I'm asking God, I'm asking Spirit to give me a sign or a symbol for the message that you need to know. And one of the things that I've been taught, and a lot of people feel, is that sometimes, especially when you're doing card readings, it may be more difficult for people to read people that as opposed to people where you may not know them, because then you could just talk, because you don't have that question in your mind, like, well, did they tell me that? Did I already know that? Just like when you mentioned the Lovers earlier, I was like, okay, why'd she say the Lovers? Like, out of all the cards, we've been discussing the Lovers all week. But again, that could just be a reminder for all of us that God is love, to stay in love and just love each other. So the 10 of Cups for me is fulfillment. The 10 of Cups for me represents the happily ever after card. That this chapter of your life, or where you are, it tends our completion. So you reached a chapter of where you are, of fulfillment. That's where you are. But what's over it is the Ace of Swords.
Okay, can I speak to the 10 of Cups before you move on?
Move on, speak.
Well, I agree. I said when I see the 10 of Cups, I think of also, like this completion. Of course, you've come to the Pentacle, In other words, you come to the pinnacle, but also cup speaks to emotion and to feelings and whatnot. So, I'm integrated a lot of the emotions and the feelings, and I can stand strong in who I am as one with the one. Because when we go to numerology as 10, 10 is one. We come back to who we are. You're in alignment, you're fulfilled, you're strong, you are on the path to, to being who you are in this moment, right here and now.
Preach, mama. I gotta write that down. So next time I do a reading, I'm gonna say exactly that. See, that's why that's why I was like, Barbara, you gotta come on the show. And then the other people can see how I learned and how I was taught and how you just deliver the information. So I think that's beautiful. And I did out of everything that you said, I definitely didn't see or take into account the aspect of the 10 becoming the one and becoming one. So I think that's how you get to fulfillment, is to become one with the all that is.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Ooh, this is good. We ain't even got into it yet, and it's already good. So, meaning the reading, because we way into the show. What I have as the challenge or over the first card is the Ace of Swords. So the Ace of Swords for me is always the truth card. That truth is a double-edged sword. And so when you receive truth, you receive some type of information, some type of knowledge that will help you on your path. That's how I read the Ace of Swords. This information, being a sword, is information that can be cut off, or may allow you to cut off things. It may change things, but it's information and knowledge that you needed to know. What's the Eight of Swords, mama?
Ace of Swords.
Excuse me, Ace of Swords.
Ace. Ace, again, as you know, if you look at any deck of cards or anything, the ace is the beginning. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of your truth right now. And that truth can be a double-edged sword. It's up to you. Are you going to follow that path that you know to be the right way, or are you going to, choose another way? But again, because it's hanging over the 10 and the 1, we know that this is the beginning of you coming into your oneness. This is the beginning of you being able to move forward, speaking your truth, in alignment with who you really are. That this is a stage in your life where you've reached the point of, not that you don't care about others, but it's about you right now. It's about you and your relationship with God. Take the truth that you've learned, and move forward.
I think that's beautiful. And I think this is the essential, quintessential description. I tell people all the time, and that's why I'm sharing these stories, because you're not around to hear me refer to you. I said, my mama say, I do a do-it-yourself reading. And then I try to explain it, but I think this is the perfect example, because you're doing your own reading. I'm just like, mama, what that mean? And you like, okay, this is it. Do it yourself. I'm doing the reading, but I need you to do it yourself. Right? So I'm just turning over the cards. So, ooh, look at God. Why is this lover stalking us, Mom? Why is the lover stalking us? We talked, I don't know, but I think God is like, it's about me. Let's get back to me. The lovers, just the love for yourself, not only romantic love, partnership love, but just love, like we talked about earlier, for mankind and for the human race. Do you want to comment on that? Are you called to comment anything more for the lovers?
Well, I'll just say briefly, the lover's card, again, as we spoke before, is, about love, but it's also about in alignment with the other cards in the context of that, love the path that you're on, the path of truth, love being, where you are at this stage of your life, and love being, surrounded by people who are, attempting to find their path and their oneness and their way, so I would say that's what this is about for me. It's about acceptance, about loving who you are right now.
You go, mama, you do your reading, because the next card that you have is the Eight of Wands. Right? That's the base of the matter, is the Eight of Wands. And the Eight of Wands for me is one of my favorite cards in the deck, because whenever what the Eight of Wands represents for me is new opportunities coming to you. And one of the difference for me for the Eight of Wands is that those opportunities are already on their way to you. They're already in the air. So at this point, what you have to do is to be open to receive the opportunities that are coming your way. They are wands they are fire, there are action, there's movement. 8, the card of abundance. So these are wonderful, great opportunities that are already on their way coming to you. Read it, mama.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. As a licensed spiritual practitioner, I just really understand that abundance is already around us. And so I think that's what that points to, also that the abundance is already here. The thing is, are you going to take the action to receive it? Or are you going to be open to, standing in your truth and calling that forth into your life? So, yes.
Okay. So the past card that I have is the Knight of Swords. Whenever I see the Knight of Swords, swords means thoughts, ideas, information. I always read the Knights for me as more of a younger energy. The Knight to me is someone who is going out and basically in times of war, he's going to battle. This is a new challenge. It's not something that he's automatically definitely going to win, aside from we look at it from a spiritual means of that everything happens for your highest good. But this is a challenge. This is something that he's starting out. Kings have already have their castle. They've already went to war. They've already fought that battle. So when I would read this as far as in conjunction with what you're doing is that whatever opportunities are on their way to you, this is a new aspect for you. This is a new challenge, a new direction that you're going in.
I'm in agreement with that. Definitely moving in different directions, and because it is a thought card, what and came in the past, all that thinking about it and what you should do and all that's behind you now. Now it's time to move forward into action, and that's why we have the action card. It's time to to embrace it and to take what you learned and move out, into a new arena. That's why we get the Knights.
Okay, a new arena, because in the present it takes you to what we talked about, the King of Cups, the King. And I can see, I don't think that, because I know the Queen of Wands is the Aries court card, and I believe the Queen of Swords is yours.
Absolutely.
I believe.
Yes, it is.
Whenever I read the Queen of Swords, I tap into your energy. I'm like, this is my mama, the Queen of Swords. So,
her 2 cents, right?
Yes. Yes, the Queen of Swords knows. Let me tell you, she knows. If nobody knows, the Queen of Swords knows. My mama knows. That's that 10-10 energy. She knows. She has the information, but we're not on the Queen of Swords. She hasn't appeared yet. But the King of Cups, for me, is that healer, that listener, that person where everybody in the world calls them and lays their burdens on his feet, but he's not worried. He's already been this. He's gone through the training. But he has emotions. One of the challenges I see in the King of Cups is that because of who he is, there aren't many people the king could go to and say, let me tell you about what I'm feeling. Let me tell you what I'm thinking. Let me tell you what I'm going through, because he's so used to being the king. He's so used to taking care of the villagers. He's so used to being there and a sounding board for everyone else. But I would feel that there's a need to also have that in your life for someone to be there for you. Read it, mama.
Very accurate, very accurate. I have played that role, and for the family, as you well know, and friends and whatnot. And I have been that person, that personality where people come and lay their emotions, their challenges there, for information, because the king, like I said, has been down that road and had that experience. And so I think that's very valid.
Okay, because the next card that I have is the Fool. The fool, and I think that's beautiful, beautiful sign, beautiful omen, because tarot itself is called the Fool's Journey, and that represents our journey through life. We start off as the infant, we start off as the fool, we start off as not knowing a gosh darn thing, and then we move through each major arcana card, just like we move through life, learning each lesson as we go. And some lessons are harder than others, some are obviously easier than others. But the Fool is what starts the journey. And the reason it's called the Fool's Journey is because there's an expression that says there are only 2 people on earth that don't know everything. That God protects fools and infants because they're open. They need more information. So the fool also is the first step on this journey. And I see that in conjunction, especially with the Eight of Wands and the Knight of Swords. This is a new journey for you, which I can see just knowing what you're going through. And in life, this is a new journey for you. This is a new path that you're setting out, and I can see you dancing on this path like, now I'm ready to do me. Like, that's really what I'm seeing. It's like, it's time to do me. So this is a new journey, but it's about being open like the fool, being open to the new opportunities, being open to where you're led, being open to what's going to unfold, being open to where the path leads you. And then when you are open, jump, take a leap of faith, make that move, take that move, and just believe. Read it, mama.
Oh, I agree with all of that, and I think the Fool card also speaks to trust. It's about being open to the universe, open to opportunities, but also trusting the process. Knowing that you don't walk this path alone. You do not walk this path alone. You are always held in a place, in a space of love, and so we can be the fool. We can be open. We don't have to always be guarded. We don't always have to be, in charge. We don't have to be in control. And if you just be open to what the universe has for us, as they would say, release and let go. Just take the leap. Yeah.
Right. The other thing, we don't always have to know, because
right.
the fool definitely doesn't know the lessons. He has to learn the lessons. If he knew the lessons, then he wouldn't be at the beginning of the journey. And life is cyclical. You become the fool, you get to the world, but when you get to the world, you become the fool, right? So this is a new journey and a new opportunity for you. Did we speak it up? Because the next card you have is the world, right? Mm-hmm. So went from the fool to the world, and the world is about completion. The world is about, you have learned the lessons. The King of Cups has learned the lessons. He's learned the lessons prior. But again, once you get to the world, you become the fool, and it just continue and continue and continue. But the path that you've been on, the life that you've previously had, that life, is time to take a leap of faith and move forward with these new opportunities. Because when you do that, you become the Empress. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful card. I love this card. I love this deck. And again, if anyone missed it, I'm reading from the Arcanum deck, and I love it. And the Empress card is one of the, I think, if not the only card that's meaning has completely changed, and its association in my mind has completely changed, right? Over time, as you experience life, as you grow, as you have more stories and more life, as you live more life, you learn more things, right? So the Empress card is the one card where it completely, even the energy of it has changed for me. Because when I first started reading the Empress card, which is a beautiful, beautiful card, there's plenty of life in it. There's plenty of blues and water flowing, just flowing through. There's greens, there's birds. This is a beautiful card. Many people read this as a card of pregnancy, a card of a new life, a card because she symbolizes the pregnant woman. And the reason why I had really negative connotations about this card is because I remember that being a pregnant woman in your 9th month. And when a lot of people, and I can only speak for myself, being pregnant is fun. It's wonderful, especially the first time you hear the baby's kick. I think for me, the most beautiful trimester is the second trimester. I'm a second trimester kind of woman, right? But when you get to the third trimester, at least for me, I moved into this. When is this baby gonna come? Is this baby gonna come? I want to see this. I want to get out of here. I'm tired of feeling pregnant. I want to get back to the old me. So I didn't like that energy, because one thing a pregnant woman understands, and I'm not referring to C-sections, I'm referring to natural birth, is 2 things. Number 1, the baby is gonna come when the baby wants to come. And the second part is the baby is going to come when God says it's time for the baby to come. And you can stand on your head, you can roll around in the bed, you can talk to the baby, you can do whatever it is you want to do. But until it's time, That baby is not going to move, right? So I was doing a reading for my dear friend Dawn. I love Dawn Lane. Shout out to Dawn, and she is a channel and an expert. She's amazing. And so when I was doing a reading for Dawn, Dawn said to me, she said, Sharifah, whenever I receive this card, what I see and the message I receive is that it's time. It's telling you it's time for the baby to be born. And so I have adopted that meaning, so that now that's my symbol and my sign, clear symbol and clear sign, that this new direction that you're taking, it's time. It's time for you to go in this direction. Whatever happened in the past, whatever you've gone through in the past, okay, but right now it's time for you to do all the things that you were meant to do.
I
Read it.
agree with that. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And when I look at the Empress card, I also think about, fruitfulness, abundance, about things coming through, new life, new growth, new direction, all of that, which is in accordance with what we said earlier, So, yeah, I agree. Yes.
Okay, so we did all this reading. We done looked at the 9 cards, the 9, we finished. But at the end of the day, what is the final outcome? What are you trying to say? What am I meant to hear? What is based on the current path of where I'm at, what's going to happen? And that I really love, even though I looked at it, it is the 9 of Swords. The 9 of Swords. So at the end of the day, the final outcome is the energy of the 9 of Swords. And this, a lot of cards in my deck, not in my deck, but a lot of cards I have associated songs with, right? And the 9 of Swords is one of those cards where I have associated a song, because for me, this card represents fears and sleepless nights. However, Mariah Carey used to have a song back in the day, and the lyrics to that song were, "Baby, it's all in your mind." So what she was saying is, I know you think my love is slipping away, but baby, it's all in your mind. So the 9 of Swords always symbolizes to me that there may be fears and there may be sleepless nights based on what has happened in the past. What has happened in the past, it was real. It really happened. You remember. Your soul, your spirit, your mind remembers the things that happens in the past. You remember the challenges and the discord and things that you went through in the 5 of Swords. You remember what you had to go through to go about it a different way in the 7 of Swords. So in the 9 of Swords, there's some type of thought process of, I don't want that to happen again, right? But release that. Not that anybody has to tell mom, but it's all, anything now that comes up, it just cancel it, release it, and let it go, because it's not, whatever challenge, those challenges are overdone, it's finished, it's over, and they're not going to happen again.
Well, I would say to that, I'm in agreement about, that's a thought card of what happened and, the past and all those things. But I would say in conjunction with the other cards that, because it is all in your mind. It is all in your mind. The confirmation of the Empress is that's over, that's done. We're in a place of fruitfulness. We're in a place of abundance. We're in a place of moving forward. We see the wands are there telling you that, your new direction, and that everything that you have learned along this path, trust it. Be the fool. Step on out there. Step on out there. If you say and if you come to this point in your life where you understand, and I'm approaching the 7, so that's completion. What this the scriptures, the Bible at least tells us. In 7 days it was built. So I'm built now. I've got it together now. I understand. I understand. I can step out there and trust and faith, because I know from whence my blessings flow. So there it is.
And so we allow it to be, right? So we allow it to be. So usually what I do is kind of sum it up, but I think you did your do-it-yourself reading and you summed it up. We know what the message is. You stepping out there on faith. You don't have anything to worry about, which we already know. Just be you, be amazing, be the Empress, step out there on faith and make it happen. So what do you think? What do you think? Have I progressed? Have I gotten better?
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, like I said, as I did in the beginning, we just have to keep in mind and understand that the cards are really just a tool. They're a tool. They're a way for God to speak to us. He speaks to us in many ways. When you look at when the man first looked at a bird, that's where he got the idea of making a plane. So the things that we see in the universe, the signs that God gives us, and in this case, the cards, they're just an instrument, a tool for God to speak to us, to give us a message. So we don't want to make sure we make the card the focus of the idol. We want to understand that they are the tool for which God brings through guidance.
But the most important thing is, did you get the message?
Got the message. Confirmation.
Everyone who is tuning into the show, I appreciate you. Did you get the message? Did you see why I am who I am today? Y'all see my mama? Let me know in the chat room if you resonated with Sharifah's do-it-yourself reading. Okay, no, I ain't got time to be telling you the message because you already know. So why am I giving you the message? So it's beautiful. Love to hear your thoughts. We are coming down to the last few minutes of the show, and so what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allowing you a moment to mention, to say, to speak anything that you really is called and feel on your spirit to say to our audience today.
I would just like to say, hopefully you take this interaction, this conversation that we've had today and apply it to your own life and take away what, works for you and discard what doesn't, Perhaps it's calling you to step off the ledge, to take a chance, to be more open to possibilities that are there for you, to also know that you aren't walking alone and that we all play the fool at some point, but it's about trust. It's about trusting the process, knowing that you don't walk alone and that God is ever present, and to know that everything that you need is provided for along this path. And those people who are supposed to bring you a message will. The things you need to know will be known, and that, everything is in alignment, in divine accord, and that all is well. Sometimes it doesn't look like it. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. We're going to have challenges. We're going to have, and the Holy Quran says after difficulty comes ease. So we go up and we go down. Life is cyclical. But hang on in there and enjoy the ride, and know that you're not doing it alone, that we are one with the one.
I think that is so beautiful, so profound. And when you were talking, when you mentioned, I just heard the song, Everybody Plays the Fool sometimes. Yes. And I think that's beautiful. So my words to you, my encouragement with you is, mama, play the fool, whatever that looks like to you, wherever that takes you, whatever that brings you. I hope and I pray that you're open like the fool to where you are led to go in this life. I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I definitely appreciate it. If you want to sit in that seat right where my mama is, then go to my website at readmelive.com and schedule your own reading. And we have a new show, another show coming up at 9:30 this morning, 9:30 Pacific. I'm going to be on with Ren, founder of The Dragon and the Rose in Santa Ana. I'll also be doing readings live in person at The Dragon and the Rose from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Tune in, make your comments. Please share the show. Definitely appreciate your support. Until the next time, God bless and goodbye.